Imagine you are lounging on your softest couch at home, the room temperature set exactly to your liking, watching your favorite movie on a big screen while enjoying a sweet treat. But suddenly, as you bite into that treat, a sharp, piercing pain shoots through your jaw, as if someone just jammed a needle directly into your tooth's nerve. You immediately drop the food, pop a painkiller, and text your dentist on your smartphone. Just a few hours later, you are sitting in a pristine, comfortable clinic chair where a doctor administers a tiny dose of local anesthesia, and within minutes, completely pain-free, your cavity is permanently fixed, allowing you to return to your safe and comfortable world. Now, for just one moment, completely erase all this comfort, these medicines, and this modern science from your mind, and thrust yourself 50,000 years back into a terrifying, dark, and ruthless world where nature had only one rule: weakness meant death. You are huddled in a damp, freezing, pitch-black cave, fighting winds howling outside, and suddenly, that exact same toothache flares up again. But this time, you have no painkillers, no dentist, no hospital, and the most terrifying part is that in that ancient world, a toothache was not just a common nuisance, but a horrifying, slow death sentence. A rotting tooth didn't just cause pain, it was a time bomb ticking inside your own body. From a tiny cavity, bacteria would begin rotting your gums, and that horrific infection would enter your bloodstream directly, melting through your jawbone to reach your brain, meaning weeks of maddening, unbearable agony, severe facial swelling, feverish torment, and ultimately, a gruesome and agonizing death. In that era, tooth decay was an invisible, ruthless predator from which you could not run, eating you alive from the inside out. So now, the biggest and most mysterious question arises. When a single rotting tooth had the power to wipe out our entire species, how did our ancestors win this impossible game of survival? And without any toothbrushes, modern science, or surgery, how did they finally defeat this silent, agonizing death of the teeth? In that terrifying era, tooth decay was not just a disease, but a horrifying web of 4 distinct paths to death that surrounded a human from all sides. The first and most direct threat was the deadly infection itself, starting from the roots of the teeth and filling the gums with pus. And because there were no antibiotics back then, those bacteria would begin melting the jawbone, traveling straight through the blood to the human heart and brain, causing sepsis that would leave the person to die in the agonizing torment of fever and infection. But even if someone miraculously survived this infection for a few days due to a strong immune system, the second most horrifying death stood with its jaws wide open: starvation. Unlike today, there were no soups, boiled vegetables, or soft foods to survive. Our ancestors had to tear and chew raw meat, tough roots, and tree bark with their teeth. But when your tooth is rotting and your entire jaw is swollen solid as a rock, chewing anything tough was like going through the pain of hell, causing the person to stop eating and drinking, growing weaker by the day. And this exact weakness invited the third most terrifying threat: ferocious wild predators. In that ancient, untamed world, if you were groaning in pain, smelling of rotting infection and blood from your mouth, and unable to run fast or fight due to starvation, you became the easiest and most preferred prey for saber-toothed tigers and wild wolves. These predators, guided by the sound of your screams and the scent of rotting flesh in the dark, would be drawn straight to your cave. And if by some stroke of luck, all this didn't kill you, the fourth and most cruel threat became your own tribe. In that primitive age, every person in the tribe depended on each other's strength, constantly forced to walk miles in search of safe shelter and food. In such a scenario, a sick, weak, and screaming human would slow down the entire tribe's pace, putting them at risk in front of predators. Therefore, many times the tribe had no other choice for survival but to make the heavy-hearted decision to leave that suffering person behind, alone in the freezing cave to die and move forward. This meant that a tiny cavity in your tooth wasn't just eating your gum, it was stripping you of your body, your strength, your safety, and your loved ones, pushing you toward a deeply horrifying, agonizing, and lonely death. However, our ancestors didn't bow down to this horrifying web of death. Instead, in those agonizing nights, they began discovering their own primitive treatments, the most astonishing and foolproof archaeological evidence of which still lies buried deep within caves around the world today, proving they were not mindless savages, but the very first scientists and surgeons of their time. The nearly 50,000-year-old skeleton of a Neanderthal found in Spain's El Sidrón cave blew modern scientists' minds when they discovered that this early human had a severe infection in his jaw, but a DNA test of the plaque on his teeth revealed he was chewing poplar tree bark to escape the pain, a bark that contains salicylic acid, solid, the active ingredient in modern pain relievers like aspirin. Not only that, he was also consuming natural penicillium mold, nature's very first antibiotic, meaning that without any medical degree or laboratory, this early human was accurately treating himself in the dense forest. And when these herbs alone weren't enough, they performed the world's most terrifying and painful surgeries with their bare hands. The most horrific evidence of this was found at the Villabruna site in Italy, where a 14,000-year-old human skeleton was unearthed, revealing a rotting tooth that wasn't hollowed out by a modern drill, but completely scraped out from the inside using extremely sharp, pointed flintstones. Just imagine that spine-chilling scene. Without any numbing medicine, another human is scraping your tooth's live nerves and rotting bones with sharp stone tools, and you have to endure that hellish pain in silence while wide awake, because if that rot wasn't scraped out, death was certain. Going a step further, at other archaeological sites in Slovenia and Italy, jaws have been found where, after scraping out the rot, beeswax and natural bitumen were used to fill the empty space and cover the exposed nerves to protect them from pain and cold air, serving as the world's very first dental fillings. These jaws buried in the dirt, these teeth with holes, and these blood-stained stone tools are not fictional stories, but solid historical and scientific proof screaming out today, testifying that instead of giving up and dying from infection and pain, our ancestors turned every resource of nature into their weapon, stared death right in the eyes, and used their stones to cut that horrifying rot right out of their bodies. But the biggest and most shocking twist in this horrifying tale of pain and scraped teeth comes when we realize that this deadly dental infection didn't just take our ancestors' lives, it actually made them human and completely reversed the course of our evolution. When your teeth are rotting and your jaw is breaking from pain, you cannot chew raw meat or tough roots, and that desperate attempt to escape unbearable agony and hunger forced our ancestors to make the greatest invention in the world: cooking food over a fire. Yes, fire wasn't just used to escape the cold or predators, but to soften food so that humans with weak, broken, and rotting teeth could swallow it easily without much chewing. And this cooked, soft food created the greatest miracle in human history, because our bodies now required far less energy to chew and digest tough meat. Due to eating soft food continuously for thousands of years, our heavy, massive jaws slowly shrank. But those shrinking, smaller jaws and weakening muscles worked a magical transformation on the structure of our skull, giving our brain the historical space it needed to grow and expand, which is exactly why we are the most intelligent beings in the universe today. And it wasn't just limited to physical evolution. When a companion or elder in the tribe lost all their teeth due to infection instead of leaving them behind to die, our ancestors began making separate soft food for them by grinding it with heavy stones and boiling it in water. For the first time in the world, this laid the foundation for a true, civilized society based on compassion, empathy, and selfless care for one another. The direct and spine-chilling meaning of this is that if our ancient ancestors hadn't suffered that horrific pain and rot in their teeth, they might never have felt the desperate need to cook their food. Our jaws would never have shrunk, our brains would never have become so massive and intelligent, and we might still be wandering the forests like animals today. This means that the terrifying battle to survive that silent, agonizing death of the teeth is exactly what gave us the fire, the immense intelligence, and the society that permanently transformed us into true humans. So, the next time you sit on your comfortable couch and eat something sweet, or lie back in that relaxing dentist's chair in a modern clinic for a treatment, close your eyes for a moment and remember those unnamed ancestors who refused to give up amidst that horrific pain, blood, and rot. Because this pain-free science, this safe life, and this modern medicine you have today is not some overnight miracle. Rather, it is a monument built on the foundation of thousands of years of terrifying struggle, sharp stone tools, and unbearable agony, constructed with the blood and sweat of your primitive ancestors so that their future generations would never have to face the death-like pain of that dark cave. That small plastic toothbrush sitting in your bathroom today and your ordinary-looking toothpaste are not just everyday items. They are magnificent trophies of victory, won in a terrifying, million-year-long war, claimed by your ancestors who looked death in the eyes with absolute stubbornness. And today, every time you comfortably chew your favorite food without any pain or fear, you are, unknowingly, giving a silent salute to that indomitable human spirit, that brilliant intelligence, and that invincible courage that defeated nature's most cruel and deadly weapon, crowning us humans as the ultimate and greatest victors in this horrifying horrifying battle for existence.